War wasn't new to our ancestors. Throughout human history, war was constant. Rome fought for centuries. Medieval Europe was in perpetual conflict. Ancient civilizations rose and fell through violence. And yet, civilians lived through it. They raised children, they planted crops, they celebrated festivals, they fell in love, they created art, they carried on with daily life even while war raged around them or threatened on the horizon. And the question is, how? How did they process the fear and uncertainty and still function? What can we learn from people who survived countless wars without modern psychology or trauma therapy? Here's the answer. They had practices, rituals, community, spiritual frameworks, and those ancient tools can help you now. I've always been fascinated by this question. When I read history, I'm struck by how people just continued. During the Hundred Years' War, during the Mongol invasions, during the fall of Rome, life went on, markets operated, children were born, poems were written, and I used to think, how were they not paralyzed by fear? How did they keep functioning? Then I realized they had no choice. There was no option to check out, no ability to doom scroll from safety. They had to process the threat and continue living, because survival required it. And they developed wisdom for doing this, wisdom that's been lost in our modern, comfortable world. We've forgotten how to live with ongoing threat, how to hold fear while still functioning, how to maintain normalcy during crisis. But our ancestors knew, and their knowledge is recorded in letters, diaries, religious texts, and oral traditions, and we can use it now. Here's what we're covering. First, how ancient people understood and processed war differently than we do, and why their mindset was more sustainable. Second, the specific practices they used to maintain daily life during ongoing conflict. And third, the 3 lessons from ancient civilians that will help you carry on with your life even when war feels imminent or is actively happening. Let's start with how ancient people thought about war differently. For most of human history, war wasn't an aberration. It was expected, cyclical, part of life. Ancient texts don't express surprise when war comes. They express, here it is again. And that shift in expectation changes everything, because we modern people expect peace as the default. We expect stability, safety, predictability. And when war threatens, it feels like the world is ending, like everything is falling apart, because our entire worldview is built on peace being normal. But ancient people didn't have that luxury. They knew peace was temporary. They knew conflict was inevitable. They knew empires rise and fall. And this doesn't mean they didn't fear war. They did. But they didn't catastrophize it the same way. They didn't interpret war as the end of everything. They interpreted it as the hard season, the test, the challenge, and they prepared mentally and practically to endure it. Not to avoid it, because it couldn't be avoided, to endure it. This mindset created resilience. When war came, it wasn't, everything I believed about the world is shattered. It was, here's the test we knew would come. And we will endure it as our ancestors did, and we will rebuild after. This doesn't make war less painful, but it makes it less existentially destabilizing, because it fits within their worldview instead of destroying it. Ancient people also had spiritual and philosophical frameworks that helped them process war. Stoicism taught that external events are beyond our control. Focus on virtue and response. Buddhism taught impermanence. All things arise and pass, including war. Christianity taught that suffering has meaning and that God provides strength through trials. These weren't just beliefs, they were practices, daily rituals, prayer, meditation, philosophical reflection, ways to process fear and find meaning even during catastrophe. And they had community. When war threatened, people didn't isolate, they came together, they supported each other, they shared resources. They maintained collective rituals, festivals, ceremonies, communal meals, because they knew we survived this together or not at all. And that collective support created resilience that individual coping couldn't match. Now, what specific practices did ancient civilians use to carry on during war? One was radical acceptance of what they couldn't control. They couldn't stop armies from marching. They couldn't prevent kings from making war. So they didn't waste energy trying. Instead, they focused on what they could control, their land, their family, their community, their spiritual practice. Medieval peasants continued planting crops during wartime because crops needed to be planted whether there was war or not. And that focus on the controllable kept them functional. Another practice was maintaining routine despite chaos. Rituals, daily prayers, seasonal festivals, market days, these created stability and normalcy even when the external world was unstable. A Jewish family during persecution still observed Shabbat. A Roman family still celebrated household gods even during invasions. These rituals weren't denial, they were anchors. They reminded people we are still ourselves, our values still matter, life still has meaning, and that prevented complete disintegration. They also practiced what we'd now call compartmentalization. During the day, you work, you care for children, you cook, you engage with life, and you don't carry the war with you constantly. But at specific times, evening prayers, community gatherings, you acknowledge the fear. You process it collectively. You ask for divine protection. You express grief. And then you return to living. This isn't suppression. It's creating containers for processing fear so it doesn't consume every moment. Here's how you apply ancient wisdom to carrying on during modern war threats. Practice number 1. Shift from peace is normal to life includes both peace and conflict. This is a fundamental reframe. You're not saying war is good or acceptable. You're saying humanity has always faced conflict and life has always continued through it. So if war comes, it's not the end of the world. It's a hard chapter, one that will eventually pass, and we will endure it as humans have always endured. This shift creates resilience because you're not clinging to peace as the only acceptable reality. You're accepting that life includes difficulty, that war might come, and that even if it does, you can survive it. Your ancestors survived countless wars. You have their resilience in your DNA, and accessing that knowledge that humans endure creates strength. You practice this by studying history, by reading accounts of civilians during war, by seeing how they survived, how they rebuilt, how life continued. Not to romanticize war, but to remember, humans are incredibly resilient. We've been through worse, and we always find ways forward. And you are part of that lineage. Practice number 2. Maintain daily rituals and routines as anchors during uncertainty. When war threatens, your instinct might be to abandon routine. Why cook when war might come? Why celebrate when the world is falling apart? But ancient people knew routine creates stability when everything else is unstable. So you maintain rituals, morning coffee, evening walk, weekly family dinner, daily prayer or meditation if you practice, seasonal celebrations. These aren't distractions from reality, they're anchors. They remind you, I am still myself, my values still matter, life is still happening, and even if war comes, these things remain meaningful. Because they're about how you live, about who you are. And crisis doesn't change that. Only you can change that by abandoning what grounds you. And you create containers for processing fear. Maybe every evening you allow yourself 15 minutes to feel the fear fully, to acknowledge the threat, to express it through journaling, prayer, talking with loved ones. And then you return to living. You don't carry it with you constantly. You give it space, process it, and then continue with life. This is what ancient people did. Fear had its place, but so did living. Practice number 3. Connect with community and share the burden collectively. You cannot endure crisis alone. Ancient people knew this. When war threatened, communities came together. They shared resources, they supported each other, they maintained collective rituals. And this collective resilience was stronger than any individual could create. So you reach out. You connect with family, friends, community. You talk about fears. You share resources and information. You support each other practically and emotionally. You don't isolate. You don't try to be strong alone. You remember, humans are social creatures. We survive through connection. And crisis is when connection matters most. And you participate in or create collective rituals. Maybe it's a weekly gathering with friends. Maybe it's community prayer or meditation. Maybe it's a group doing practical preparation together. The specific form doesn't matter. What matters is that you're not alone. You're part of something larger. And that larger thing provides strength that you can't generate by yourself. Here's what I want you to understand. Your ancestors survived countless wars without modern technology, medicine, or psychology. They didn't have therapists. They didn't have anxiety medication. They didn't have news apps or preparation guides, but they had wisdom, they had practices, they had community, and they endured. And you can too. Not because war is good, but because humans are resilient, and you have millennia of survival in your lineage. We covered how ancient people thought about war differently, as cyclical and survivable, not apocalyptic. We explored the practices they used: radical acceptance of the uncontrollable, maintaining routine and ritual, and collective processing and support. And we walked through 3 lessons: shift from peace as normal to accepting life includes difficulty, maintain daily rituals as anchors during uncertainty, and connect with community to share the burden collectively. This doesn't make war less frightening, it doesn't minimize the threat, but it gives you a framework for enduring, for carrying on, for not letting fear paralyze you completely. Because life is still happening, your loved ones still need you, your work still matters, and you can hold both. The world might be changing, and I can still live meaningfully today. So here's your practice for today. Maintain one daily ritual, just one. Maybe it's morning coffee, maybe it's evening meditation, whatever grounds you, and protect it. Even if war dominates the news, even if you're scared, this ritual matters. It's your anchor, and it connects you to every human who's ever endured crisis by maintaining what makes them human. Let me know in the comments, what's your daily ritual? What keeps you grounded when everything else feels unstable? Welcome to Carrying On. This is where resilience lives.